I was one of the Native American children, adopted at birth and removed from our country's Indian reservation system. I was raised in a small middle-class farming community, but was never told of my true American Indian heritage. It was still taboo back in those early days. The years passed, and in 1987 I lost both parents. While going through their personal belongings, my wife discovered my adoption papers and she began a search. 5 years later, I was reunited with my biological Lakota family, living on the lower Brulé Sioux Indian Reservation of South Dakota. I am a son of two mothers and a product of two worlds that had collided, but I have an equal amount of love and pride for both. I'm Paul LaRoche, and the stories you are about to see are an attempt to share this true American story of a hidden heritage.
On May 7th and 8th, 2023, our group Brulé performed at the Worthington Memorial Auditorium Performing Arts Center in Worthington, Minnesota, and presented 7 concerts over 2 days for over 4,000 students, staff, and parents, which included every student in the school district from kindergarten through 12th grade.
I'm Paul Summers, and I am from Worthington. I grew up here quite a few years ago. Somewhere in the middle of our life journey, we produced a Native American music and dance show called Brulé. It is Native American based in terms of its content. We do some storytelling, and we've traveled basically across the country and around the world for the last 27 years. And ironically, it's brought us back here to Worthington this year for what I think is a very unique and somewhat historical concert, and we'll talk more about that. The group Brulé was conceived out of the idea of bringing the Native American culture out to mainstream America. Our style of music is basically so unique that it doesn't really exist out there in the mainstream. You will not find contemporary Native American music. You won't find it in the Grammys. You won't find it on the major radio formats or on the television networks. It's just emerging at this time. We're part of this process. We call it pioneering one of the last musical frontiers. It's been a great journey. It's been an honor to be part of bringing out one of the new styles and sounds of musical formats that hasn't been discovered yet. So we hope that we can maybe inspire some of the younger generations of musical performers from not only within the Native American culture, but some of the other minorities across the country, and to see if they can't use music to bridge what I call the cultural gap here in America. You know, when you start to think about things that we've, stones that we haven't, turned over, there aren't too many. We've really done, if the whole thing was to come to an end tomorrow, I wouldn't have any regrets. I wouldn't feel like we'd missed out on too much. We've got to record a lot of music, over 1,000 songs. We've got to travel and work together as a family. I've worked with my son and daughter, nieces and nephews. My wife has managed us. So we've worked together as a family. We stayed together as a family unit. We've done everything, traveled around the world. The only thing I could think of that might be a challenge yet is that our story has always been of immense interest to the audience and to people that we run into. It's not just a story of music, it's a story of going back into a culture that was removed at birth. And it's a story of taking that culture its spiritual elements and putting it into music and taking it out into the world. And so I was talking to Tammy, the director here at the Memorial Auditorium a few weeks back, and she asked me, was there anything that you'd like to do yet? And I said, there's one thing. I would love to tackle what I would call a Broadway caliber performance play that tells the story of what we've been through, tells our story of reunion, tells the story of the culture, and documents it in a way that we couldn't really do on CD to CD. So to me, that's a challenge. To me, that's fascinating. I'd love to do it. I don't know if it's in the cards, but to me, it's intriguing, and we'll see where it takes us.
I'm Tammy Macram. I'm the managing director at Memorial Auditorium Performing Arts Center in Worthington, Minnesota. One of the things that I've learned from Paul and his performances with his group Brulé, they are incredible musicians, but the main piece of their performance is his message of us all being one and all being related to one another, and a sense of pride in oneself, but also in your community, and how important reconciliation and things like that are. And he talks about the 7 directions and how important it is, the choices that you make each day, and also just about your own spirituality and wellness and taking care of yourself as well as others.
My name is Tammy Macram, and I'm the managing director here at Memorial Auditorium Performing Arts Center. We're really excited to have all of you here today to see this show.
First of all, we had to make sure that everyone, including the schools, all of the schools, and Brulé were on board with putting something like this together. And so we began the process with meeting with them, and everyone thought it was really a fantastic idea.
Are you ready for the show? Please welcome Brulé.
Like every artist, we have some of our repertoire that gets requested more than some. In our case, we've really had one piece of music that we've had one song that I think that we've played in probably every Brulé performance from the very beginning. I know that sounds kind of strange, especially after 27 years, and I don't know how many shows we've done. Some years we've done over 100 shows. I know that easily. So you just do the math. We have a song called Buffalo Moon that was on our very first release. The CD was called We the People. The song basically had something in it. I don't know what you call it. There was something in there kind of spiritually that you can't account for as a human. The song was one that got us recognition from the very beginning. We started to build it into every set, and we've played it every performance since then, and it'll be in our show tomorrow over the next 2 days. So for us, it wasn't really a hit song. Our music is just too new. We haven't invaded the pop scene, and we haven't even really got into the mainstream music industry in America. But that song kind of was an underground hit for us, I guess you would call it. It was recognizable. People latched onto it, and it's probably been my favorite. There's something to it. I've been able to play it for countless times without really getting tired or sick of it. So yeah, we have one of those songs. It's called Buffalo Moon. Our performance really touches on a lot of things from within the culture. The music is there to kind of keep the audience involved. But, for instance, we open up one of our songs. Well, we open it and we close it with the dancers, and they're carrying 7 flags, and each flag has got a different color. And so people, of course, are kind of curious when these colors come out, and we explain it during the concert. But what we're doing there is we're taking a part of the culture. It's what we call the 7 directions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there they are, the 7 directions, the 7 colors represented on these 7 flags. They have a special meaning and a story to us as Indigenous people. In the Lakota way, I'd like to describe these colors at this time. They each represent a separate direction. I begin with the 4 directions north, south, east, and west. The 4 cardinal directions, represented by the colors red, black, yellow, and white. Their meaning is simple. Back in early times, before books and manuals, we realized that us human beings, we make a conscious decision to this day. Every moment, every second of every day, we decide to walk and travel in one of these four directions: north, south, east, and west. We come to the next two directions, which we call the spiritual directions. The color green represents Mother Earth, and the color blue represents Father Sky. The directions here are above and below. They're also interpreted to represent the positive and the negative, or the good and the bad, that we make a decision on every moment of the day as well. It's a reminder also that as we travel and walk those first four directions, at that precise moment we make a decision to walk and travel one of these directions as well. Which brings us to the seventh direction, the most important and the truest of all. The color purple, the direction is from within. It's from within your own heart. That inner voice, some call it conscious, some call it intuition. That quiet voice that attempts to tell us many times right from wrong. And now you see that when we travel those other six directions, this final direction is the most important of all. It's said to be the truest of all the directions, especially when applied all at one time. So we call it our seven directions song. And in a nutshell, and this is how it was taught to me from the elders, and this is how it came to me. I was having kind of a bad weekend, a little down on myself, and was frustrated. And I'd asked one of the elders, he had approached me and said, "What's the matter, Paul? And you seem to be down and having a hard time." And I said, "Yeah, just one of those days." And he goes, I said, "I don't know if this is really working out." I said, "This whole music thing, Brulé, we're having some obstacles and some ups and downs." He goes, "Well, you're fine." He said, "You just have to acknowledge and listen to follow those seven directions." And I go, "What do you mean by that?" So he explained it to me, and he goes, "Well, we've used this concept of seven directions in our culture for hundreds, maybe thousands of years." He said, "Just keep this in mind." He says, "As you go about your day, Paul, you're gonna, every moment of every minute and every of the day, you're gonna make a decision, you are, to travel one of the first four directions, north, south, east, or west. You stand up, you're gonna go one of those directions, consciously or unconsciously." I said, "Yeah, I understand that, I follow that." He says, "Well, that's your choice to make, but the next two directions, directions 5 and 6, are the spiritual directions. They're above and below." He says, "Now you're not going to fly off the ground or dig a hole, but you are going to, you're going to look at those directions as being a positive and a negative decision. And you're going to make a conscious decision to travel one of those directions while you're making that decision to walk the other four. So you're going to go north, south, east, or west. Red, yellow, black, and white are the colors of those four directions. And you're going to make a decision to make a positive or a negative choice at that same time. That's directions 5 and 6. And the colors are green for the earth and blue for the sky. But then that seventh direction is the one that really changes everything. He says that's the one that's going to carry you through life and determine how your life turns out. And the seventh direction is from within. That's within your own heart, within your own mind. It's that little voice that we have. Some people call it, our collective conscience or intuition. When you allow that to come into that same process of making that decision to go north, south, east, or west, positive, negative, and then you listen to your inner voice, and you're going to follow that direction as well. And that's the process that gets you through life. You follow those seven directions, and you'll find that in the majority of the time, you'll make the right choice when you think about it that way. And that's the decision you make to walk your life's path. Those directions are always there for every human being. We'd like to present two more dances at this time for you. We're gonna start with the men's dance. It's called the grass dance, and I'd like you to watch their motions very carefully. You're gonna see that the men grass dancers make a big sweeping motion with their legs. The reason for that is, back in early times, the grass dancers would come out at the early part of the day, and they would go out and they would stomp the grass down so that the rest of the community could come out to celebrate and partake in the social event. They're going to be joined by the Jingle dress dancers. That's a women's dance. The Jingle dress, a very beautiful regalia. You'll see many tiny tin cones on their regalia. They make a beautiful sound, so listen close. The Jingle dress is a healing dance as well. And so we're going to send that healing out today to all of you with us, students, teachers, adults, so that you may pass that healing along to a friend, a family member, a parent, a grandparent, or perhaps yourself. You could use that healing. This is our song presenting the Jingle Dress Dance, the Grass Dance, and a song that we call Transparent. This next song is going to be a tribute to the buffalo and the role that it played in the survival of the early Lakota people here from this region hundreds of years ago. You see, the buffalo provided everything that we needed to survive over the course of a long and a treacherous year. In return for that sacrifice, all these years later, we still remember to honor and respect our brother, the buffalo, Tatanka, in ceremonies and social gatherings, much like today, and with song and with prayers. This song is a tribute to the buffalo. We're going to be joined on this song by our buffalo tribute dancer. He's going to be joined by the women's traditional dancers. The women's traditional dance goes back hundreds of years. The buffalo tribute dance is one of the newer dances. This song features both. This song is called Tribal Tread. If I had a chance to talk to the younger generation, I guess I will coming up these next 2 days. You know, I'd have to sit and think a little bit about the advice that I would give. The music industry has changed so much from when we started Brulé, not to mention when we started back in the 60s, you know, it was a totally different scene. Not better, not worse, but in terms of survival, it was certainly better. Back in those days, if you had the work ethic and you had the passion, you could go out there and you could make your own way. You could book yourself. You could play on a street corner. You could play art festivals. We made our group. We kind of made our way for the first 10 years of Brulé by playing in malls and shopping centers and art festivals. And we learned how to record. I guess I would encourage, that's the first thing I would do to somebody starting out is, if they want to be a musician, I would say, great, you know, you're going to need some inspiration and passion. I just think that, you know, the discipline of learning how to record yourself is very important. You'll overcome the obstacles. Technology is such these days that it's there. It's easy to grab onto. You know, software is there, computer technology. A studio that would have cost $1 million, you know, 25 years ago, now you can buy software and hardware for probably, you know, $3,500. And record your own music, write your own music, record your own music, and do your own thing. And see where that takes you. That would be my first round of advice for the idea for this musical project was so unique that actually I can't take credit for it. It's part of a life's journey. I'll share a little bit of it here very quickly, but looking back, we couldn't have dreamt that this would have taken this course. And what I mean by that is, in my early 20s, late 20s, going into my 30s, basically I had kind of given up on music. But then something happened very unusual, something unexpected, that one of those things that steps in and completely changes the course of your life. And what had happened to me was I'd lost both of my adopted parents. I'm an adopted child. I was told I was adopted, and I lost both of my parents within the same year. I was 38 years old, and my wife, while going through my parents' belongings, found some of my adoption information. I was going through the grieving process, so I didn't check into it, but she began a search. The search lasted 5 years, and she discovered my biological family. This is before the days of Ancestry.com and things like that. She found my biological family residing on a small Indian reservation in central South Dakota, the Lower Brule or Brule Sioux Indian Reservation.
And she pursued that, and we talked about it. We made a call, and we had a family reunion 2 weeks before Thanksgiving of 1993. The journey back into Native America is where the idea for Brulé basically came from. The homecoming and the assimilation back into Native America was so profound that we ended up with kind of a pat on the back from the tribe and our new family, and they said, go back out into the world. You've had unusual opportunity in your life that you would have never have gotten had you grown up on the reservation. Take that opportunity, take it out into the world, and you can be an ambassador for our community, for your new culture, and your new family. And so that was basically the beginning of Brulé. That was 1993. We started out at a small little art festival in Rapid City one weekend, and we sold some CDs. We had produced one CD prior to that, and it went pretty good. So we just started going. Kathy started booking the show, and we never looked back. And lo and behold, 27 years have gone by, taking the show around the world. Well, we have done our very best to be cultural ambassadors for our tribe, the lower Brulé Sioux tribe. But I have stayed out of politics my entire career, in fact, my entire life. So when I say ambassador, we've done that on a little bit different scale. We've really tried to let the music do the speaking for us. Now, our music is more or less instrumental. So, but even with instrumental music, the music tells a story. So you're up there telling your story with your music. You have a few segues. You get to tell a little bit orally, you know. So we've tried to be good role models. We've tried to, you know, bring Native America up to the forefront. Our culture, Native America, is the smallest of all the minorities here in America, and it gets overlooked a little bit, and it kind of gets a bad rap. So we've tried to be positive role models for the culture, and open the door, you know, for people to learn more about the culture. And you know, I guess when this whole thing is done, someday we'll look back, or somebody will look back, and we'll be judged if we did a good job or not. At this point, I think we've done the best that we can, and I hope it's been enough. Well, some people might think that after a quarter of a century of performing it, you would burn out a little bit. We never really had to rely on an oldie circuit. It is, you know, a lot of artists, you know, the traditional path for a musician that's had some success in their career is to have a hit record that carries you through, you know, 4 or 5 years. Hopefully you can follow that up with 3 or 4 or 5 more hits. There's a little lull in your career at that point, because you can't keep producing hits year after year, and so the label will bring new acts in. You have to take a little breather, and eventually you go back out and you do your hit songs again and kind of call it the oldie circuit. For us, we never had to do that oldie circuit. We just kept pounding away year after year, trying to improve every time that we did something. And so for us, I would say these last 2 years have been very different. The pandemic, of course, really changed things. It slowed a lot of stuff down, but we never quit. We still continued to work, to perform, and to write. And so what I found out this last year is that we are not performing as much as we used to. But for some reason, and once again, there's a spiritual element that comes into some of this. For some reason, the performances took on a more significant role. The magnitude of the performances was more than what we'd ever seen before. So what I mean by that is that for some reason there was something or somebody that was looking out for us, and consequently what happened is we performed less, but the performances were bigger. You know, last year we played out in Sioux Falls for a crowd of 10,000 people at the outdoor, you know, Levitt outdoor amphitheater. So that's never happened before, you know, and so it's been like that. It seems like not as many shows, but the ones that we are being part of have a more significant role. Even like this performance coming up in Worthington here the next 2 days. It's a very monumental event, and I believe it's going to be historical for this community, certainly for Brulé, and I think the culture.
All right, thank you, everybody.
The Lakota have a saying. We say it like this. We say Matakwe yo yasim. You don't have to remember that, but here's what it means. It's very profound. It means we are all related. See, we live by that. And I pass it on to you. Regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of our religious persuasion and our politics, there comes a point at the core, just like this moment this afternoon, we are just all brothers and sisters of one heart, one mind, and one body. You guys have been a wonderful audience. We're the luckiest people alive to have been able to have been part of this for the last 2 days. This will be our final song. We're going to bring all the dancers back out. A final thank you from all of us from Brulé. God bless. Joining me on stage for all the performances was Shane Summers on drum kit, Nicole Summers on flute, Velasquez Bergakis on guitars, Chris Estes on traditional drum, manager Kathy Summers, men's fancy dancer Garen Coons, grass dancer Garen Coons Jr., men's traditional dancer Chris Estes, jingle dress, fancy shawl, and eagle dancer Michelle Reed, grass dancer Gentry St. Cyr, jingle dress, fancy shawl, and eagle dancer Jade Summers, and men's fancy dancer and hoop dancer Simon Washi. Our sound engineer Joe Adam, technical director Mark Broden, videographer Vahilio Serda, theater director Tammy Macram. And special thanks Dave Hardy, Doug Frisch, and Lucas Negretti.
On May 8th and 9th of 2023, Worthington's smallest minority presented the largest school concert program in the history of the city. The Native American group Brulé took center stage at the Worthington Memorial Auditorium for a series of 6 concerts for all Worthington school students.
We're on board with putting something like this together, and we began process with meeting with them, and everyone thought it was really a fantastic idea.
The Brulé concerts were made possible through grants by Southwest Initiative Foundation, Worthington Regional Healthcare Foundation, and American Indian Education Aid. The project was a partnership between Brulé, Worthington Schools, Friends of the Auditorium, and the City of Worthington. Brulé's Following the Seventh Direction performance is designed to focus on cultural pride, spirituality, and wellness as individuals and as part of a community through the lens of Native peoples. The mission of the program is to reach youth and instill hope, faith, pride, and confidence. This unique program will allow students to gain a deeper sense of current-day Native culture, as well as their own culture, and increase their self-worth, resulting in future self-improvement. This is one of the most captivating and powerful Native American performances ever produced. The group's founder, Paul Summers, is an enrolled member of the Lower Brule Sioux Tribe of South Dakota and grew up in Worthington. The result of this historic collaboration was a successful bridging of the cultures through music and a deepened appreciation of the American Indian culture and the many other minority communities of Worthington. The students left with a new sense of pride for their own various cultures and were inspired to excel and reach for their dreams.
Well, with Worthington being diverse as it is, I think Brulé was a great way to showcase for our kids different cultures.
The kids were so excited about it before and after. A lot of them said it was their best day ever at school.
It was phenomenal to watch the dancers and the singing and the storytelling. Our students had a positive feedback from it. It was something that I believe it was really good for our students to see.
For them to be able to see something the caliber of a Brulé performance was very special. They're still talking about it. When they came in, eyes wide, they were mesmerized the whole time. It's just such a beautiful show.